the space between, not just another podcast. Purpose, passion, faith, freedom. Purpose, passion, faith, freedom.
Good morning and welcome back to the space between, where solutions always have room to grow. I'm your humble host, Sean McClellan. Would you guys do me a favor? Get on over to iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave a rating for the show. Subscribe so you don't miss a future episode. I would greatly appreciate it. I want to talk to you guys today about conquering the fear of negative feedback. Negative feedback in regards to what, Sean? Well, funny you should ask. Your podcast. Of course, if you're listening to this podcast, you're taking time out of your day to listen to this podcast. I just want to thank you so much for tuning in to the space between, because we all got a dream. We all got a vision for our life. But what's going to happen more often than not when you start going on that path of figuring out what your purpose is, what your calling is, you're going to be met with a bunch of negative feedback from a bunch of negative know-it-alls going where? Absolutely nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. Here's the thing, man. When you go for your dream, when you're trying to do something unconventional outside of going to a job, people are going to cock their eyes at you and tell you you're crazy. You know what? Good. I want to be crazy. Why? Because I don't want to be like everybody else. I'm not like everybody else. God only made one Sean McClellan. He only made one you. You have gifts that you've not been using that you think about every single day while you're sitting in a cubicle working away for somebody else's dream, mind you. Here's what I know about negative feedback. You know, people are going to hate regardless. It doesn't matter. But you have to develop a thick skin and realize that what you're doing, there's a bigger meaning behind it. And you know what? You don't want to. I think it's funny. Like when you get negative feedback, I think it's great. Why? Because now you're on to something. You're agitating a pain point of somebody who knows that they will never have the courage to go for the dream. They just won't. You know, what's the old adage? You know, life is lived at 10%. You know, 10% what happens to us and 90% how we respond to it. So you got to put a bunch of people coming at you with negative feedback in regards to what you want to do with your life, your dream. Be like water, man. Bruce Lee had it right. Be like water. Let it roll off you. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what their opinion is. I mean, you look at social media, like everybody's an expert and everybody's got an opinion. Who cares? It doesn't matter. You got a dream. You got something that's been put in your heart. You got a gift you're not using. Get after it. Get after it. It doesn't matter what a small fraction of percentage of the people think about your dream. It's your dream. It's your life. It's one shot you have to make an impact in this world. Are you going to let the opinions of other people dictate how you choose to live your life? I'm going to say that again. Are you going to let the opinions of other people, someone that you probably don't even know, dictate how you choose to live your life and get after your dream? No, you're not. If you listen to this podcast, you are an individual who has purpose, who has a passion, who knows there's a calling on their life, who knows you have been called to do something bigger than what you're doing. Maybe you don't know how. Maybe you got a message. You do have a message. Everybody has a message to tell. Everybody's got a story. Everybody's life is a story. You are the own hero of your story. What story are you telling yourself? You know, for me, negative consequences and negative, thoughts and dialogue, that's my loop, dude. Growing up, your boy wasn't actually a popular kid. Imagine that. I was in band. I got picked on. I got bullied like everybody else probably. But like that negative dialogue of inadequacy and not feeling worthy and not being good enough, that stays with you a long time, man. You got to realize that you were created by God. First and foremost, like He created you. There's nothing wrong with you. You're perfect in His image. He gave you gifts to use while you're here to glorify Him, nonetheless. But you got to start using those gifts. It took me a long time. Even starting this podcast, guys. I used to be a very shy individual. Can you imagine that? Me not being able to talk to somebody? I don't think so. In the words of Cullen McCulkin from Home Alone, old school. I don't think so. But it took me a long time to realize that I could connect with people, meet them where they're at. Why? Because we're all in 1 through 3 phases of life. We're in a crisis. We're coming out of one, or we're heading into one. That's it. Everybody's life is on that cycle. And when you realize that, anybody you come in contact with, you automatically should have something. You have a foundation where you can talk to somebody as a human being, no matter what capacity they're at, whether it's a server, whether it's somebody at a grocery store, whether it's a gas station. It doesn't matter. Everybody's in one of those three phases of life. Everybody has all these negative thoughts about themselves. What are you doing to rid yourself of those negative thoughts? Because it's going to take work. Like I realize some people, they like to stay in that space of woe is me, having a pity party for themselves and kind of wallowing in that stuff so they can get accommodation, special treatment, blah, blah, blah. Man, that is the worst place you can absolutely be, man. I tell you what. I used to be that person. My dad, rest in peace. I love you, Poppy, but my dad was just a negative person, man. He was, and that rubbed off on me. And that's what the environment I was around. He complained a lot, and he was, it's just how he was. He was fed up about a bunch of stuff, and I started looking back and like maybe he was fed up because he didn't pursue his dreams. I don't know. I'll never know, but he provided for me. He loved me. He might not have told me that till my later years in life, but that's just not the generation that he was raised in. I get it. I don't blame him for that, but I can't allow myself to use that as an excuse, as a reason for me to change. I can't. I just can't. Negative consequences, negative people, negative feedback. People are going to give you their opinion whether you like it or not. And all you have to do, you have to make a decision whether you're going to feed that opinion or you're going to rise above, let it roll off your back like water, and carry on with your dream and your mission. And my mission is to encourage you to get after your dream. I know God put one in your heart. I know He did. He put one in everybody's heart. Why aren't you moving forward that dream? Because you're scared of what your friends will think? Because you're scared of what your spouse will think? Your husband, your wife? You're scared of what your kids will think? I'll tell you what, man, your kids need to see you go for your dream, because why would you instill in them to go for your dream if you're not going to go for yours? Why? My kids see me getting here and podcasting, and they're like, they don't understand. Quite frankly, I'm trying to set an example for them of going for your dream. Because I think everybody needs to go for the dream. With the one shot you've been given to go around on this planet, why wouldn't you want to do something that you've seen in your mind that God's put in your heart? I don't know. That's a good question. That's a real good question. That's a question you have to ask yourself. You have to ask yourself that question and come up with an answer. And you have to hold steadfast to that answer, no matter what it is. If you're okay with going to a job for the next 30 years and living out somebody else's dream, and, kudos to you, man. Good for you. I'm happy, giddy up. But most people, 80% of the country does not like what they do just in order to survive. How is that a life, man? How are you just existing for somebody else's dream? I don't get it, man. I just don't get it. And we've been conditioned. We've been lied to, in my opinion. I don't do politics, but I mean, we all been taught from a very young age: go to school, go to college, get a good job, or work for 40 years, retire, la 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 la. That's not the world we're living in anymore, man. That's the industrial age of thinking. That's the age of thinking that my parents indoctrinated. And, they were able to go to a job for 30 or 40 years and hang their hat and get a 401k and all that stuff. And that's great. Commitment and all the stuff they did for another company and another person's dream. That's great. I appreciate them for showing me what it takes to be committed to the process, for sticking it out, so to speak. I'm not cut from that cloth, though. If you're listening to this podcast, you're not cut from that cloth either. You are somebody who's got a big dream and a big vision for their life. You maybe not know how to start, though. You're a little apprehensive. I got a message. I got some stuff I want to talk about. I want to create a virtual stage for this message. Here's the thing, guys. How does a husband, a father, somebody who currently has a job right now, create a virtual stage and reach over 12,000 people around the globe? You want to find out how? Linkwithsean.com. Let's have a conversation, okay? Let's have a conversation. I'll show you how. Not that difficult. If I can do it, anybody can do it, okay? If you got a message to share, if you got a lesson to teach, the world is waiting to hear from you. And I know this for a fact because they're waiting to hear from me as well. Every single day, the downloads are growing. The podcast is growing. So negative feedback, bring it on. I embrace it. You know why? You know why I embrace negative feedback? It lets me know I'm on the right track. It lets me know that I'm agitating a pain point as somebody who is not willing to pursue their dream, their goals, their aspirations, their gifts. They have settled for a life of mediocrity, and if that is not you, linkwithsean.com. Let's have a conversation. I would love to hear about your story. I would love to hear your dream. I would love to encourage you. I would love to help you blast that out to 226 countries around the world. All right? I really hope the message hit you today about conquering the fear of negative feedback. Share this message to somebody who needs to hear it today, because I know I'm not the only person on the planet who thinks this way. And I'm looking for my people, my tribe, the people who resonate with this message. And that's you. linkwithsean.com. Let's have a conversation, all right? Would you do me a favor, get on over to iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave a rating for the show. Subscribe so you don't miss a future episode. I would greatly appreciate it. And we'll see you next time on The Space Between.
And just like that, another void has been filled in the space between. Hey, listen, you're obviously a podcast listener. You're listening to this podcast, which I appreciate you. Have you ever thought about launching your own? Are you somebody who feels like I've got a message, but I'm not quite clear what it is or who would ever want to hear it? Let's do this. Let's have a conversation. I'll kind of take you behind the scenes of the Space Between podcast, show you how I do it, and worst case scenario, you'll have 3 really simple steps that you can use right now to understand what your message is and how to get it out there. Go to linkwithsean.com, SEAN, linkwithsean.com, book a call, pick a time that works for you, and let's have a conversation about you and your message, all right? We'll see you on the call.